Does he have a fever, Steve?
No conditions or anything like that.
Well, it's just going to be day to day. So he's on the trip, and he'll be working with the training staff, and he won't play tomorrow, but we'll just take it day by day from there.
All right, let's do it. Here we go. Out to the River Islands guest line for Steve Kerr, presented by Great Clips. In sports, success is about team effort, and the same is true for your hair. Great Clips, it's going to be great. I don't know if Steve caught the tail end of that conversation, so let's just ask him. Steve, do you know who's on the team right now when you're coaching it? Do you actually know?
Yeah, there are some unfamiliar faces for sure, but our guys have stepped in pretty quickly and done a good job. And yes, it is Nate Williams, not Nick Williams. Nate has been great. I mean, he just came out 2 straight games and played really hard and scored and got a good lively body. We put him on Kawhi Leonard, and he did a decent job on Kawhi, as good as you can. It's been an opportunity for several guys, and they're all really embracing the job and doing a good job.
Yeah, Steve, lots of what I would call good stories. Williams, Guy Santos, Pat Spencer, lots of good stories. I know you know this. That can also, at a certain point, get like either difficult or frustrating or tiresome for fans because everybody wants to see this thing compete at such a high level. So how are you navigating all of that, all that's gone on with Steph, Kristaps, Jimmy, Draymond, and then all of those other names that are still actually available to you?
Well, the way you have to approach this is you look at the whole season. You look at what the goal is, and there's all kinds of ups and downs within that season, and you just got to get to the finish line in one piece, and that's what we're trying to do. So get through this rough patch with all the injuries, pick off some games here and there, and hope that we can, get some of our players back, and if we do, we feel good about our chances to make a run.
We've talked a lot about the system and the Steve Kerr system and how it really is Steph that is the system. Is it at all plausible or something you could do in the season when he's not playing to change the way you go about playing offense?
No. We're actually playing quite differently than we did even a few years ago. A lot more ball screens, a lot more 5-out spacing, spreading the floor. And, you work on concepts and actions every day and in camp and whenever you do get a chance to have practice. And it doesn't make sense to try to change the offense all of a sudden mid-season when a guy goes out.
Steve Kerr with us here on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. I'm interested in that comment you just made about maybe we could pick off some games here and there until we get our guys back. And I think that's completely fair, but I wonder how you would answer this. Do you sort of have a different success gauge in this moment when you guys go into a game when you're missing your guys?
We just go into each game and see what we can do to win the game. I mean, I thought our effort against the Clippers was fantastic. The coaches put together a really good game plan. We had the Clippers on their heels the whole first half and had, I think, a 14-point lead. And they played a hell of a second half. They made tough shots. We went cold, and that's the way it goes. But that's how you approach every single game. You look at it and you go, how are we going to give ourselves a chance? And we've done that. We beat Denver doing the same thing. We had San Antonio, down 3 quarters and obviously couldn't finish it off. But this is where we are right now. So you approach him with the idea that we got to put together a good plan and give the guys some confidence and see what we can do. And that's all in the context of the full 82. So, when you're going through a rough patch and wins are hard to come by, you just have to keep the spirits up and keep everybody moving forward.
And how are the spirits? Because we're kind of in the dog days here with 20 to go, and you've got younger players who haven't really been through it. What's the overall mood of the team?
Mood of the team is good. Our guys have really good energy. They support each other, good chemistry, really competing. So, it's tough, but everybody goes through this at some point during the season. And this is our time. We had good health, early on in the year. And obviously now we got a lot of guys banged up, but we also have a lot of guys playing well. And, the way you look at it is try to keep the rhythm that you're seeing from Brandon and Melt and Al Horford. And, you keep that going, and then you get guys healthy, and it's much easier to see a clear picture of what it's going to take to win.
Steve, while we're on the health topic, we'd love to hear if there is any sort of a plan or what you can share right now. Everyone knows, I think, that Kristaps made the trip but will not play tomorrow. Is there anything else you can share for the plan on the trip?
Well, if I remember correctly, you guys in trouble last we will not be discussing health matters.
Yes.
This week. Yeah. Is that fair?
Fair. That's totally fair. I'm not asking about any. Yeah. Yes. Steve.
Does he have a fever, Steve?
No conditions or anything like that. I want to know if there is a plan for his ramp up, or when you guys, if there's anything with regard to him just playing ball.
Well, it's just going to be day to day. So he's on the trip, and he'll be working with the training staff, and he won't play tomorrow, but we'll just take it day by day from there.
Just curiously, is Steph on this trip, or is he still back home getting better? He's home.
Yeah, Steph stayed at home.
And Steve, I want to ask you about, I'm sure you've heard everybody say this, just from a mathematical standpoint, it very much appears like you guys are going to be in the play-in tournament. I know that's not for sure, but that's the way the math sort of looks right now when you pull up the standings. To your guys' thinking, how important, how much of a chase is the 7 seed versus the 8 seed versus the 9 seed? How do you view that?
Well, we don't even talk about it as a team because all the guys, they know the standings, they know the play-in rules. We all want to be, as high up as possible to get a home game, to get 2 cracks at it. All of that stuff matters. But you don't spend a whole lot of time analyzing it and thinking about it because you just have to focus on the game the next night. And that's all we're doing. But our guys are well aware of what's at stake.
And sure, I'm also well aware of what's coming up. You've got 4 games in 6 nights in 4 cities and a back-to-back. How much should we be looking at, certain guys missing certain games, Melton and Horford and back-to-backs? Are you already strategizing how you're going to approach that?
Nope, because we've got three games on this trip that are all obviously separate entities, and we have to gauge where everybody is when the back-to-backs come next week. So for now, we won't even consider that.
Steve, we've talked on this show before about how you're not on social media or at all, right? You're not on any of the platforms?
I'm not.
Can you tell our listeners, is that a conscious decision? Why are you not?
Well, it was a conscious decision about 5 years ago. James Wiseman was getting beaten up on social media, and I went to him and I said, "Hey, let's get off social media together." And we did it, and I figured it would be a month or 2, and I'd go back because I did enjoy the a lot of it in terms of the news feed on Twitter and just following people that I like to follow and all that kind of stuff. And then I realized after a couple of weeks how great it was that I didn't actually miss it, and that I could just do the navigation on my own and find stuff that I wanted to read, but avoid a lot of the toxic stuff. And it was one of the best things I've ever done. So I'm really able to avoid reading what a terrible human being and coach I am, and that's healthy for me.
I bet, and with full respect to that, since we're all asking, right, we're going to agree we're not going to talk about the health of players. How about another agreement? If this is in any way like sort of an unfair question. You tell me, we can move on. But I also think the opportunity to have you on and connect direct with the fans, one of the things that's cool about that is to sort of have you maybe address some of the things that do get said. And I know you're not on there, so I wonder if I could throw a couple of them at you. Like, let's start with one that that I think we hear a lot, which is Steve is clearly in love with like 3 and 4 guard lineups. What would be your response to that?
Well, it just depends on who those 3 or 4 guards are. You know, I mean, I'm most concerned about two-way combinations. I would say the reason for smaller lineups is to generate offense and spacing. One of the reasons we traded for Kristaps and signed Al Horford and have developed Quentin Post is that we want to play bigger lineups, but in the modern game you have to have spacing, and so we're looking to play bigger as much as we can. But I'm just playing the best two-way lineups that I can to find the offensive and defensive rhythm.
Another one that we hear a lot is the pods, not pots, Steve, pods with a DZ. And fans just don't get what you see in pods. So what do you see in young Brandon Podzemski?
Well, he's got a really good feel for the game. When he's off the ball, he is one of the best defensive players we have on our team. And I know people may not see that, but it's the anticipation. It's playing on the weak side. It's weak side help. It's being disruptive. It's taking charges. He's one of our best rebounders. 2 straight 15 rebound games last week. And offensively, he's still finding his way. I mean, I talk about it all the time publicly. But getting off the ball early in a possession and then getting it back, he generates a lot of shots for us. Running through the catch, generating closeouts, and then all of a sudden we're attacking 5-on-4. He does that better than most of our guys, and for us to generate good shots, he's generally got to be out on the floor more often than not.
Steve, here's one more, and this is a big buzz phrase, and I've actually fought against it quite a bit because I think it can be disproven, but I'd love your response, and it's that Steve Kerr doesn't develop young players. And in addition to the question, I wonder if you even see that as the role of a head coach in the NBA.
Well, it's the role of the organization, and I think we've really addressed that over the last 4 or 5 years. We felt like there were some improvements we could make, and we changed some things organizationally. We brought in a couple of people who were to put them in charge of player development, and I think we've done a pretty good job with that over the last few years. And I think part of the frustration of our fans probably stems from the fact that we've got we had the 3 lottery picks coming at a time when we were winning a championship, and it's just hard to play 19-year-olds on championship teams. And so the development that comes is going to be different than it would come on a team that's in the lottery, where you just put a guy out there for 35 minutes and let him make his mistakes. And I think that's probably where some of the frustration comes. But you see how it can work too. You see Moses Moody, you see his development over time. You see Guy Santos. I think Brandon is really coming into his own, playing well. But it takes time. And I remember when I got to Chicago, we had a couple of drafts, and I was in my 10th year, 9th year, and I asked Phil Jackson, what he thought of the guys we drafted. He said, well, it won't matter for a few years. And I said, how come? He said, well, because grown-ups win championships. And it's true. It's true. It's really hard to come in as a young player and be expected to have the knowledge, have the wealth of knowledge and skill and feel that you have to be a championship NBA player. I would equate it to just about anything else on earth. Tell me the profession where, the guy with the highest test scores at Stanford can go and, be a CEO or, be a partner in a firm or so. It just life doesn't work that way. And so I think when I think about any frustration from our fans, it's probably just coming from this idea that young players should get it right away. It just doesn't work that way.
Wow. And you guys did go and set a pretty high bar for yourself, Steve.
Well, we've been incredibly lucky, obviously, to have Steph Curry and Draymond Green and a host of other credible veteran players over the years. And, they won championships. They set a tone, set a bar, and we're still, competing, which is just incredible when you think about, how long this run has gone on. And obviously the last couple of years have not gone as well as we'd hoped. On the other hand, we've won a couple of playoff series over the last couple of years, and we've been in the mix. And I still think that, the team that Mike Dunleavy put together at the beginning of this year with Jimmy and Steph and Al Horford and the young guys, I felt great about this team coming into this year. So I think overall, the Warriors have given ourselves a swing at the plate year after year, and that's as good as you can possibly do. And everyone can nitpick with, coaches' decisions or roster decisions and all that stuff, but and we all make mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes. The players make mistakes. And so you do the best you can, you stick together, and you give yourself a shot. And we've done that for more than a decade. And I'm really proud of that. And, I hope we can keep this thing going. But I understand fans' frustration because, trust me, I'm one of them, and I want my teams to do well too, and it just it doesn't always happen that way.
When you while we're on the development topic, I believe you, especially after the contract extension, you called the Guy Santos situation, quote, an incredible development story. I'd love to hear more about that and how you see it as coming together.
Well, again, it's the patience organizationally and Guy himself. He started out in Santa Cruz. It took him a couple of years even to get to the Warriors, and the work that the Santa Cruz coaches did with him, the work that our development coaches have done with him here the last couple of years, but most of all, the work that Guy himself has put in and the energy with which he plays and the intelligence. You can see the confidence growing daily, but it's been a 4-year process. And I would say the same thing about Moses Moody. This is, I think it's year 5 for Moses, and he is now one of our most consistent players. And it's been nothing but work and, coaching from his individual coaches and development coaches and a lot of ups and downs. And this is how life works. You guys know this. And it's, there's a lot of pride organizationally when you see young players like Moses and Guy really, come to the forefront and sign a good contract, life-changing contracts. It's very gratifying.
And Moses is out earning his contract with the way he's been playing. And this is almost a borderline medical question, Steve, so I'm tiptoeing into it. But he had the shoulder and he had the wrist. How's he doing? I'm not looking for a concrete update, but just how's he doing? What hurts the most?
Well, the wrist is, I talked to him today on the plane. The wrist is the concern. He said the shoulder is something that he's dealt with in the past and that he's going to be fine on that front. But he's got to take care of that wrist, and that's going to be a day-to-day thing. He'll be out tomorrow, and we'll see, the rest of the trip. It's just going to be day-to-day.
Okay, so no Steph, no Jimmy, no Kristaps, no Will, no Moses. Are we being introduced to any other new players in this game tomorrow?
Name tag basketball. I love it.
Yeah, we like I said, we got guys ready to go, and they're going to compete tomorrow, and we're going to bring it. And It's it's no fun losing, but it is fun watching a group of guys compete together and try to accomplish something. And so I'm enjoying myself. I mean, I love coaching in general, but I'm really enjoying coaching these guys. And I do think that you have to set a tone, now while all of this stuff is happening, with how hard you're going to compete, how much you're going to stick together, because it pays off, when the reinforcements come.
Steve, you're really good at this, which is why I ask. I think you're really good at awareness and sort of admitting this, that, or the other. You've done it on this show many, many times. So I'm struck when you just said a couple of minutes ago, hey, I'm like anyone else. I've made bunches of mistakes. Because of where you guys are at, you've called it a fading dynasty. Is there anything you would share about regrets? Like, do you look back on anything recently or beyond that you wish you had done differently?
Well, there's always stuff that you do in games. Late game, you call a play that doesn't work. You make a substitution that doesn't work. And that's just always going to happen. There's just stuff, and obviously the opposite happens too. You make a good call, you make a good sub, you do something that clicks, and that's kind of coaching. And I think the biggest thing though is how consistent is the vibe in the building for the players every single day. Are they understanding and aware that we're here for them? We're trying to make them the best players they can be, help them along to their best careers. And that's the focus. The in-game stuff, there's always regrets. And I have some for sure, nothing that I would be willing to share.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. That's about right. And, a lot of fans talk about Steve Kerr's rotations and this and that. Can you just give the audience a little bit of a look inside the process and how it's more of a collective and how you decide like who gets to play and who doesn't?
Well, we set the rotation before the game, and then we obviously are very flexible depending on how the game's going. But we are constantly looking at lineup combinations. Analytically, we have so much more information now. We're able to match the information with the tape and I think make more educated guesses on lineups. And, Seth Cooper, one of my assistants, puts together the rotation before our meeting each day. And then we meet as a staff before the games and go over his rotation and debate, what we'd like to see. And all the combinations are well thought out, but then it's the old Mike Tyson line: you get punched in the mouth, you got to make let's see if you still have a plan. So you have to take some chances sometimes, and you've got to find a group that can click together, and sometimes sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But when you're injured like we are now, you've got so much fluctuation in your rotations that it's not easy to find a rhythm for the team, but you do what you have to do.
How is the Rockets team that you beat in the playoffs last year different from this one? Now that they've obviously swapped in Kevin Durant for Jalen Green and others.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin is having an incredible year and still one of the great players in the league, and he's given them what they didn't have last year. The reason we beat them in the playoffs was because we defended them well enough over 7 games to really keep them from any separation, and we were able to stay in most of the games. And obviously, Buddy had 33 in Game 7, and we played a great game that night, and so it's. There's a different team, but they're young and huge, athletic, and now they've got Kevin, so they're the real deal. They're a real threat out west.
Steve, we're allowed to ask about your health, right? Like, you turned 60 last year. Is anything hurting? Are you feeling good? How's that all going?
You kidding me? Everything hurts.
Okay.
I played golf on Sunday, which was really fun. It was a beautiful day, and felt fine, and then I woke up the next morning. It's like, did I just play in an NFL game yesterday?
Right.
How is it possible to hurt your groin playing golf? But I don't know.
Steve, I try to tell him because he's barely cresting 50, and I'm closer to being 60. And 5 things hurt every day, and sometimes it rotates.
Yeah, and you don't earn it either. That's the problem. Like when you're young, you kind of earn your aches and pains, and you get older and you can't even figure out why you're hurting, and that's no fun.
Those are Dan Dibley's rotations. That's very different than your rotations, Steve. Very different. By the way, what do you shoot when you golf? What's your thing out there?
I'm okay. I'm not a great golfer. I'm okay. But,
are we breaking 90?
I do enjoy it.
Are we breaking 90?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're competitive.
90, yeah.
All right.
That was borderline insulting.
Well, I got to get a bar.
Yeah, it's pro athlete here now.
Honestly, I don't play off